The 16th lecture will be about the Acts of the Apostles. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the untold story of the unification movement, which developed around the two illegitimate children of True Father. True Father, open quote, I advise you to write diaries while you are here, and those diaries will be of great untold value in future days. It's going to be something like Acts in the Bible. What is going to take place here around us will be the record of the apostles. Close quote. You can find this in the speech Heavenly Tradition, Reverend Simon Moon, January 20, 1973, First International Training Session, Master Speaks, translated by Mrs. Wong Pok Che. In the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verses 4 to 8, King James Version. And the third angel, omission. And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged thus. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. And I heard another out of the altar say, Even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. And the fourth angel, omission. Bearing in mind that the seven angels that appear in Revelation 16 are on the side of Satan, the two angels that appear between the third angel, Dong Bi Wu, and fourth angel, Li Shanian, are on the side of God. But who are these two angels? True Father, open quote, If my son Jinim cannot settle down, it becomes really problematic. But gratefully he went to Japan and understood God's will. All this is restoration through indemnity. Centering on that content, Son Jinim now became that kind of settle, that much down that it comes already for you quite difficult. Now the Japanese President Koboki is going to travel around him. Close quote. You can find this in the Blessing, volume 73, page 84, The Way Our Family Has to Go, 28th August 1971. First of all, the angel of the water describes the characteristics of Peter, the main disciple of Jesus Christ, because Peter was a fisherman and walked on the waters. Matthew 14:29. And since Son Jinim was in Jesus Christ's position, President Koboki represented this angel of the waters. The other angel that spoke out of the altar describes the characteristics of President Yu, because he was the first president of the Unification Church, and also a lecturer who gave lectures and sermons from an altar. And since the other son of True Father was in his position, there must be a member who represented the angel of the altar. This member was called Kim Myung-dae, who had the John the Baptist position for this second son. This member started a home church in the early 1980s, which was first joined by this son's stepfather, Joseph like father, and then by the son himself. But soon this foundation was unfortunately destroyed. Later, this member was sent to Japan as a leader, where many problems arose. Hashimoto. In 1977, he was witnessed by a German brother from the Unification Church. In 1994, he met the second illegitimate son of True Father, and immediately after returning from that visit, he was expelled from the Unification Church. In 1997, he found the key to understanding True Father's words. On September 9, 1999, he left the second son's group after he had clearly recognized that the fourth Adam, the true grandson, is coming. Within 1.5 years, 100 members were witnessed, and they basically understood, but only 3 people remained. In 2003, God told him in a revelation that he must write the 95 Theses like Martin Luther. At the end of 2005, on December 25th, a foundation of 12 members connected with Gas Chimjo was established. Between 2006 and 2007, the Fourth Israel Research Group was established, and from 2008, the Fourth Israel began. European brother. In the 70s, he joined the Unification Church. He did various activities as a regular member, was a camp leader, participated in home church activities, formed his family, etc. Then in 2002, he joined Hashimoto's group. In 2005, he was chosen as a peace ambassador. In 2006, he, along with other members including Hashimoto, held a workshop in Switzerland for the second generation. In 2008, around 144 people had already attended this workshop. In 2012, together with other European members, formed the Voice organization, and at the end of this year he met God's Prophet online, and in early 2013 through a second generation spiritual son he educated God's Prophet until 2018, 6 years, and between 2013 to 2014 they began to give voice lectures. In the early fall of 2014, he helped God's Prophet get to New Jerusalem. At the beginning of 2015, his group separated from Hashimoto's group. In the early spring of this year, he and his spiritual son traveled to New Jerusalem to meet VIPs and connect them with voice and also to meet God's prophet personally. And near the end of the summer, the physical son along with the spiritual son traveled back to New Jerusalem to the Sunshine State to meet God's prophet. In that state, the three of them participated in a summit to end sexual exploitation and pornography. Then they traveled to the capital city and then returned to Europe. In 2017, he along with other European brothers wrote the original divine principle without biblical reference or True Father's words, just the principle as they understood it. And in the same year, they reconnected with the group of the second son of True Father and offered him the original divine principle. And from that time until mid-2019, they visited him once a year, but since 2020 they haven't been able to due to the pandemic. God's prophet. At the beginning of 2002, he was invited by a sister from the Rising Sun Nation who was serving as a missionary in the nation of the Island of Light. In 2003, he stopped studying and became an internal member. That same year, in the early spring, he traveled with another brother to the Southern Con to serve as pioneers of the new STF program. From that moment until 2005, he participated in various workshops, fundraising activities, witnessing and volunteering in various countries of the new Iberia continent. In 2005, on Christmas Eve, God's prophet traveled to the Adamic nation to participate in the cross-cultural blessing. At the beginning of 2006, he joined the new Iberia fundraising team. In 2007, he went to college in the Latin Asian nation, and in the summer, he went back to the Adamic nation to work as a teacher. In the winter of 2008, he met again a brother from STF who contained the revelation of the fourth Israel. In 2010, he decided to return to his country, and in his country, he started to study the material of the fourth Israel plus the complete Testament Bible until the end of 2012, when he met the European brothers. In 2013, he received more material and better explanation. In 2013, he translated part of that material into his own language. In 2014, he traveled to New Jerusalem to the Sunshine State, where he got a job as a martial art instructor. In 2015, after meeting in person the European brothers for the first time, he gave a lecture in the church of the Sunshine State. In that same year, after meeting the European brothers for the second time, he gave the second lecture in the same church. From 2016, he chose to do fundraising for a living, and at the end of the summer, he traveled to the state of New Jerusalem, which is next to the state of Liberty, and settled in that state. In 2017, he finished his first PowerPoint presentation. At the end of 2017, he started posting comments on this PowerPoint presentation on social media, but at the beginning of 2018, he posted the link of this PowerPoint presentation. In the spring of 2019, he discovers his mission in front of heaven. At the end of 2020, he releases a message from heaven, and in 2022, he will release the second part of that message. He is currently single and only committed to heaven. The 70th lecture will be about why True Family's mission is John the Baptist's mission, part 1. In this lecture, we're going to solve questions like why the True Family can establish directly the kingdom of heaven. Was True Mother born or without original sin? If True Mother and True Children were born without sin, why didn't they reach perfection? What then has been the role that the True Family has played in the divine providence? And what will be the central family that will take us to the kingdom of heaven? First question, why the True Family can establish directly the kingdom of heaven? Reverend Chun-Wan quote, "It is for this purpose of salvation that God sent His Son, Jesus Christ, as Savior to this world. Thus the Messiah must stand before God as the origin of all ideal individuals and must establish the ideal family, which is the family that fulfills the purpose of the creation, and it is the place where God's love can dwell. He must then also establish the ideal nation and world, thereby realizing the originally intended kingdom of heaven on earth, fulfilling the purpose of the creation. This is the purpose for which the Messiah comes." Close quote. You can find this in the Divine Principle, Level 4, Chapter 3, Section 2. True Father, open quote, "The fundamental issues of life can only be addressed in a family. Do you understand? Yes. How splendid an ideal family would be. God's painful longing to see such a family born on earth has borne for thousands and 10,000s of years. He has not been able to see a single household like that for all those years. How pitiful God's situation has been. I have wanted to create such a family, but my wife and my children could not embody the ideals. That is the tremendous problem." Close quote. Father said this on August 25th, 2001 in Jeju Island in a workshop for leaders. Second question. Was True Mother born with or without original sin? Let's find out. True Father. Open quote. It is an original requirement that True Mother must be an only daughter. Adam was the original only son. Jesus was the only son. The Lord at the second advent is also the only son from the perspective of God's will. Since the man through whom God accomplishes the will is his only son, the woman must be his only daughter. Close quote. Father said this in 1991, November 10th. True Father. Open quote. There had been 7 generations of only sons born in True Mother's maternal lineage. Grandmother Josune Hong and True Mother Hak Jahan were then born as only daughters in each subsequent generation, establishing the foundation for the bride. When True Mother was about 4 years old, Ho Ho Bin's mother blessed her, calling her the one who will become the bride of heaven. Close quote. You can find this in Samuel Moon's life in his own words. Part 25, the preparation of the bride. Conclusion, she was born sinless. Now, the question. If True Mother and true children were born without sin, why didn't they reach perfection? True Father, open quote. What is the will of God? It is to perfect Adam through the process of recreation history. Upon the victorious foundation of perfected Adam, Eve could be perfected. Upon the foundation of perfected Eve, the children and the family could be perfected. In order to set up a foundation for the children to be perfected, a substantial circle must be set up representing the clan and the nation. This is the essence of the providence for salvation. It is essential for the completion of the providence for salvation. Close quote. You can find this in the Way of Unification, Chapter 1, Section 1, Subsection 5.1. True Father. Quote, if True Father could not give birth to 12 children, then he could not save humanity. True Father gave birth in the midst of Satan's nest. Close quote. And you can find this in Blessed Family. Conclusion. Although women are born without original sin, individually they cannot achieve perfection. They need the love and education of the perfect Adam and the archangels. On the other hand, men can achieve it, but it is very difficult if the environment is not prepared. The ones who had the position of archangels in the true family were the 36 couples, but it was obvious that they were not prepared. Now the question, what then has been the role that the true family has played in the divine providence? True Father, open quote. So far, I have told you that God wanted to have us go through the weight of restoration on the substantial base rather than having us go through the weight by setting the condition of indemnity. We must note that we have to pay the same amount of indemnity in order to restore ourselves. In other words, we have to pay the due amount of indemnity. If we pay less than what we should, it would mean that God would have to pay that amount of indemnity for us. Close quote. You can find this in Heavenly Tradition, January 20, 1973. First International Training Session, Master Speaks, translated by Mrs. Wampok Che. To Father again. Father did not care for his own children. For 3 years, Mother was almost cast out. She experienced the heart of a stepmother. She did this not done for the Unification Church, but for us. Please understand your value. So much sacrifice has been made for you to be able to stand here. Close quote. You can find this in the speech, Original Restoration and My Rebirth, Belvedere, Sunday, August 20th, 1992. Conclusion. Since the 36 couples didn't have the proper preparation and the heart to pay the due amount of indemnity, the true family had to pay it. But this foundation of restoration by indemnity could not be for the same true family, but for the true grandson's future family. Now, what will be the central family that will take us to the kingdom of heaven? True Father, open quote, as you proceed with your work to build the heavenly kingdom on earth, from now on you have to know clearly that the tradition you'll be following will not be centered on my children, but will be centered on the true parents. There is only one tradition, the tradition of true father and of true parents is the ultimate core of the central root tradition. Close quote. You can find this in the path that the second generation should follow. Family Magazine, December 24, 1994. To Father again. Perfection has to be achieved on earth, not in the spirit world. It is possible centering on true parents on earth, not in the spirit world. Close quote. You can find this in the Completed Testament Age and the Ideal Kingdom, Book 2, Chapter 2, Part 3, Section 3. In both quotes, True Father referred to the new true parents. In the first one, because he mentioned himself and then the true parents, demonstrating that they are different. Otherwise, it wouldn't be necessary to mention himself. And in the second, because he is already in the spiritual world and both have to be in the physical world. In conclusion, it must be the true grandson's family, the central family, that will take us to the kingdom of heaven. The 18th lecture will be about why true family's mission is John the Baptist's mission part 2. In this lecture, we are going to solve questions like what have been the errors of the true family and the members, what have been the errors of true matter, and what have been the errors of present mood. First question, what have been the errors of the true family and the members? 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 1 and then the verses 5 to 6. King James Version. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? And then the verses 5 to 6. I speak to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise man among you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren, but brother goes to law with brother, and that before the unbelievers? Conclusion. The first serious mistake was taking each case to court in front of judges and lawyers who were not from the unification movement, who had no idea of the divine principle, and I can even swear that some of them didn't believe in God. What have been the errors of true matter? True father, open quote, I've appointed true matter to represent me after I have ascended to the spiritual world. At that time, you must unite into one century on true matter. She too has to follow the path that true father has established based on his words and sermons. I won't allow any other word message to be preached. Close quote. You can find this in the speech, The Path That the Second Generation Should Follow. Family Magazine, December 24, 1994. First one. It's true that she is the representative of true father in the unification movement, but since she's disobeying true father for changing his words, she automatically loses her authority. However, she can take it back if she changes her mind. Second error, true matter, open quote, if you look at your father's lineage, he had one older brother and he had a lot of younger siblings. There was one parent, although he had a lot of siblings, and I cannot say his siblings were born without original sin. So you can deduct from that. Close quote. And you can find this in Exhibit 15, Hatyahan taken pursuant to order before writ of Persicheri, a notary public of the state of New York, March 25, 2019. True father was the only, this is the explanation. True father was the only child between his great uncle Moon Jung-guk and his mother Kim Kyung-gi, just as Jesus Christ was the only child between Zacharias and Mary. His siblings were half siblings, just like Jesus Christ's siblings. And the reason he had an older brother was to restore the relationship between Jesus Christ and John the Baptist in their childhood. Third error, when she built her statues and put up decorations of owls, it was also a serious mistake of hers. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verse 11, King James Version, for whosoever exalted himself shall be abased, and he that humbled himself shall be exalted. And in the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verses 14 to 15, New American Bible. Wild cats shall meet with desert beasts. Satyrs shall call to one another. There shall the Lilith repose and find for herself a place to rest. There the hood owl shall nest and lay eggs, hatch them out and gather them in her shadow. There shall the kites assemble, each with its mate. And in the same Bible, the explanation of the Lilith. The Lilith, a female demon thought to roam about the desert. And fourth error, true matter, open quote, I came into this world as the only begotten daughter, close quote, Matter of Peace, chapter 2. It's true that true matter was born sinless, but she didn't achieve perfection just like the first Eve. True father, open quote, if you say you could not make unity of mind and body, it is evident that you didn't get God's blood lineage yet. Close quote. Father said this on True Children's Day, October 31st, 1997. In conclusion, true matter achieved the position of only begotten daughter just symbolically, but never substantially. Now, what have been the errors of present moon? True father, open quote, nobody but I understands the internal situation. If you guys deal with situations on your own terms, the result will only stay in the horizontal realm. Everything must be connected to God. That's why everything must be connected to me. However, nobody wants to do so. For example, Hyunjinim. So far, only Kukjinim and Hyunjinim are connected to me. Other people are outsiders. They can go to the inner circle. Close quote. Central Church, Translated, Hitomi Gilbert, July 16, 2010. President Moon's serious mistake was seeing the unification movement with human eyes, as if it were a large corporation and with profit motives. But the unification movement is a spiritual movement and the central parents of God's plan of salvation. The unification movement was not even designed by True Father, but by God Himself, since the fall of Adam and Eve. True Father, open quote, "You have to understand what a surprising fact it is that after severing ties with the lineage of Satan and cleaning it up, a new beginning begins when the direct children of heaven century on the family are able to receive the staff of the victorious kingdom of the fourth Adam. Hyunjinim's children are the fourth generation. They can receive the era of the fourth Adam through Hyunjinim's family." Close quote. You can find this in Hyunjin sworn in as Vice President of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, then Manhattan Center, New York, U.S., July 18, 1998. True Father again, open quote, "Religious leaders should accept that they are in Archangel's position, but instead they insist they are Adam." Close quote. Father said this on December 1st, 2002. Another mistake of President Moon was to have believed that he is the substantial fourth Adam. He is just symbolic, just like all of us. And who really is the substantial fourth Adam is the true grandson. Enrico Quijano, open quote, "Would it be good if instead of kicking and questioning to forgive those who offended? Is it right to claim that I belong to the Messiah's family, that you must obey me?" Close quote. You can find this in the speech report. "You must follow what I say, but not what I do. I attended Sunday service in Sao Paulo with Hyunjinim, June 3rd, 2010. To Father, open quote, "Japanese leaders, aren't you teaching a principle that I do not teach? When I say I am Abel because I am a church leader, you are Cain, Cain obeys Abel, this is the principle, so obey? There is no such principle. The person who does not fulfill his mission and become the embodiment of love is not Abel." Close quote. You can find this in the book God's Will in the World, chapter 29, and Abel is known by his love. Okay, we can stop here and then continue in the next video.